Well, this video has been inspired by another one of the channels that I subscribe to, which I believe is called Old Classic Cars, and he talks about safety in the garage and incidents that have happened to him. Now, having worked on many cars for many years, I have had my fair share of accidents. Some due to my own stupidity, other just happened. And let me start with some real simple ones. Working under a modern car which has those bloody awful things called catalytic converters. No, not Cadillac converters, catalytic converters. And I was working under one that I'd just done an oil change on, and obviously to do an oil change you make everything run nice and hot. So the engine was stopped, it wasn't running, and I went underneath the car to take the drain plug out. And you know, I'm careful what I do, as always, you know, removing all the shields and making sure I know where I am and what's around me, and grabbed hold of my wrench and cranked on the drain plug, which was a little tight, and all of a sudden it let go. Well, of course, that's the way they do. In that process, my head moved and jammed up against the catalytic converter. There wasn't a boing or a doink or a thud. There was a like frying steak, and burnt a very large portion of the top of my head. Believe me, that one was not fun. The next one, I was working again underneath a car, doing my usual diligence and repairing whatever it was that I needed to repair. And again, pulling on a wrench, and the wrench suddenly gave way and allowed whatever it was that I was undoing to move. Again, my head hit the car. No catalytic converter this time. However, at the point, my mouth was slightly open, and I hit my head so hard I bit through my tongue. Not through the middle, just on the side. And not only did that hurt, but my mouth then bled profusely for at least the next 7 hours. Being mean, I didn't want to give up my blood, so I just swallowed it. Well, okay, you say, what's wrong with that? Well, it made me extremely ill drinking my own blood. Well, not funny, but the point's there. Be careful. The next one. Again, working under a car, and it's usually when all of this shit happens, is when you're working under a car. I was working on a Dodge Ram. In fact, it was my Dodge Ram. And on them, they don't have a steering rack. They have lots of various linkages. And I was taking out the sway bar. I undid one end of the sway bar, and then I was proceeding to undo the other end. Unbeknownst to me, one of the bolt holes was slotted, not a hole. So as I undid one, the slotted end came out. It hit me roughly there. Now this was a huge torsion bar. It hit me just on the bone above my eye. That's fucking lucky, because it didn't hit my eye. But I might as well have been in the ring with Fraser or Henry Cooper, for those of you who remember them. And that caused a huge slice because it compressed the flesh against the bone of my eye socket. So be careful with whatever you're doing. And yeah, always wear eye protection. And therein is another ridiculously sad and stupid story. I was doing some grinding. Oh yeah, you know the gun. Grind. Metal flying everywhere. No, I'm too smart for that. I had on my glasses and I had on a face shield. So I'm good, aren't I? I'm totally protected. Yeah, I am when I'm in the garage. Then I went to have a shower. I'm in the shower, I soap up my hair, and the foam soap runs down my face. And so I rub it. That soap contained metal filings because it was in my hair. I rubbed it straight into my eye. I scored my eye so badly I had to go to the hospital. They anaesthetized my eye after I'd driven in the dark to the hospital, which, believe me, was not fun every time a car headlight came in my face. And then they took a needle and picked out the metal that had gone rusty because I left it for a day. So that's a few warnings for you. I'm going to create some more, but right at the moment I'm going to have a sip of wine, and then I will relay some more horror stories, if you like, of accidents I have had in the garage and accidents I have known of. Not necessarily personal injury, but sometimes car injury. And for the moment, let me pause it and I'll be right back to you. Okay, these ones are more injuries to the car than injuries to the person. I may go back to those. You'll have to wait and see. All I'm trying to do is relay stories to you so that you think about what you're doing when you're in a garage. But I am going to digress slightly. There is two injuries to the car that are going to come up. But first, again, as a lot of you know who watch my videos, I wear flip-flops in the garage 99% of the time, no matter what I am doing. I am always very cognizant of the fact that I am wearing flip-flops, except for the day when I was welding. And you already know what's going to happen, don't you? Yep, I'm welding away and keeping my feet back. So, you know, I'm safe, aren't I? Duh. Of course I'm not. You don't wear flip-flops when you're welding unless you're a moron like I was. I don't do it again. I only did it the once. And whatever it was I was welding, I cannot remember, in all honesty. A large lump of hot molten metal landed between my toes. And I'm wearing a flip-flop. You can imagine how much fun that was. I took on doing the Indian war dance for rain and thunder and fire and everything that I could possibly dance. Don't do like I do, okay? Now, on to the more half amusing things. When I lived back in England, I was working on my Jaguar Mark II, and I really wasn't sure in what direction I was going to go, whether it was going to be restore fully and then run, or just get it running and then fix it as I go along. I didn't know which way I was going to jump. However, so I thought, all right, I need to put this, being in England, some rust preventative shit in the bodywork. So I squirted wax oil, which is a product in England, and I don't know if it's over here in the States, but I squirted this wax oil in everywhere I could find, and I read the instructions and it says allow it to go off for however many days, weeks, months it was. Done. Good. Done it. All right, so now I need to weld this panel or weld that panel or cut this or cut that, and again, can't remember, it's a long time ago. And I did. So I started welding, cutting, whatever it was. All of a sudden, my car is on fire. Now, it's in the front wing, but that connects to the interior. Now, okay, the interior was stripped, but it was in part of my garage, which was remarkably narrow and there wasn't much room for me and the car. There are flames leaping everywhere. I force myself out through this ridiculously small gap, and I'm not a small person, and you needn't agree. So, and I injured my chest quite badly, and then managed to put the fire out. So be warned, even though they say it takes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, to go off, it's a load of bullshit. The next one is rather a car injury. Again, those of you that know me know I worked in a Jaguar restoration shop back in the UK. And there are two amusing stories there. One was the owner of the company was servicing a Jaguar XJ40 and he was replacing the brakes. Put all the new pads and rotors in, took it out for a test drive, came back with an extremely red face. So we asked him, hey, what's the problem? He put the pads in backwards. Oh my God. He destroyed not only the pads, but he destroyed the rotors, and of course it all came out of his pocket. Fortunately, it wasn't me, it didn't come out of my pocket. The other little amusing thing, which is really nothing much to do with safety, but the other mechanic that worked there with me, real old boy, knew shit inside out. And he was working on an XJ40, not a vehicle he was used to, but he was struggling to get a wheel off. He'd taken the lug nuts off, wheel nuts off, and he was pounding on that mother. I mean with a rubber hammer. I'll give him his due, it was a rubber hammer, but he could not get the wheel off. He said, geez, Gary, I don't know what's wrong here. I can't get this off. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, sure. Why don't you take off the other lug nut? He'd taken off 4, he left one on. Okay. Sad, but true. Give me a second here. I need to refresh the brain cell for a couple of more tales of woe. Okay, I'm really going to wrap this up now with what I hope you'll think is amusing. I lived in Germany for a number of years back in the 70s, and I purchased a Ford Capri 3000 GT with a blown engine. And I got another engine from a junkyard and put it in the car. But of course I had to take the old one out. Okay, so I remove every ancillary thing I can off of it. And do bear in mind, I'm doing this in a normal garage. I don't have lifts, I don't have engine hoists. I have to figure out how to get shit out of this thing. So I have drained all the oil, I've got radiator out, there's no coolant, there's no oil in the engine, there's nothing. I took the drain plug out of the gearbox, and after all the water came out, then the oil came out. So I've got it up on jack stands. I am underneath the car. I need to separate the transmission from the engine. The only way to do it is what's called fucking it out. And that is when you lay on your back underneath the car and you position yourself in such a way that with your hip movement and chest movements and arm movements, you can fucking well get the gearbox off of the engine. After removing all the bolts, of course, this is what I did. I'm underneath the car, it's up on jack stands, and I am fucking the gearbox out of position. Yes, of course, it suddenly gets loose, lands on my chest, pins me to the floor. The engine then tilts and dumps whatever it can find on me, whatever was left of oil, coolant, etc. that was in the engine. I can't move. I am covered in this gooey mess. It is effing awful. Eventually, of course, I do manage to wiggle my way sideways and drop the gearbox onto the floor. I hope you find that amusing. I may come back to this topic of be careful what you do in your garage. Think about what you do. I always have a fire extinguisher in my garage because, yeah, shit happens sometimes. So be prepared for it. I have a first aid kit in my garage. I have various eye protections, ear protections, mouth protections, lung protections, whatever you want to call them. I've got all of those things and I use them on a regular basis. I used to spray brake cleaner to clean various components on vehicles, and then when I go to bed at night I was coughing a lung up. So now I'm very careful. I always put a face mask on. You may think you know better. You may say, oh, it's only a bit of dust. It's only a fume. It can fuck with you. So please, please do pay attention to that. And this is another thing that I want to get out there to you guys, and I know I've mentioned it before, and if you're sick of hearing it, too fucking bad. When you are restoring your classic car, replace all the wiring harnesses. Don't fuck around. For those few hundreds, thousands of dollars, it's worth it. Because that wiring harness that was built in the 60s is going to catch fire. There's no two ways about it. You need to replace it. It's worth the effort. It's worth the expense. It may look pretty what you've got there, but inside it's breaking up and you don't even know about it. Sorry, just wanted to throw that one in as well. Now, get out there, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to buy me a beer, I will be more than happy for you to send me a beer. You know the link, G-Star Garage, and it's going to come up in a second. Now, get out there in that garage and do some shit. Thank you for watching. Do appreciate it. I appreciate all my subscribers. I'm currently on 400 and something. I want to go for 1,000, but initially let's just settle for 500. So if you're considering it, you're thinking about it, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is click subscribe. Simple, really. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate all my subscribers and all my future subscribers. Now get out there again and do some shit in that garage.